Adventism in Japan has been stagnant. In the last 30 years, the average total membership has been about 14,000, and recently there has even been a slow decline. Can anything be done to reach the Japanese and turn this around? Stay tuned. This is AWR 360. With its 6,800 islands, hosting over 126 million people, Japan is the second most populous island country in the world. Also known as the land of the rising sun, its cities are full of technology, culture, and history. And I was surprised to see a familiar face. I am here in the center of Tokyo, looking at the Statue of Liberty. This is symbolic of how the Japanese incorporated American culture. In the years following the war, many turned to Christianity. Japan was ripe for Jesus. In the 1950s, Adventist radio started its first broadcast in Japan. Because of its focus on evangelism, Japanese membership was growing. With evangelism going strong, the church grew, but then Japan took a different turn. Prosperity and luxury began to dominate. Now there are only 14,000 Adventists in this great land. Many wonder if evangelism still works. AWR360 sought to inspire them by inviting them to preach in the Philippines. That way, they could return to Japan and do the same there. So the call to preach went out. Who would answer? Meet Emma. She is not a preacher or has done any public speaking. This event is completely out of her comfort zone. One day after church, there was a call for volunteers to preach in Mindoro, Philippines. At first, she wanted to go, but then her heart sank and doubt filled her mind. She figured that only pastors and elders could preach, but after much prayer, the Holy Spirit impressed her. She walked up to the pastor and said, "I want to preach too." In preparation, she prayed every day for divine help on the trip. As Emma was praying, the Holy Spirit was hard at work on other hearts. Meet Ivy. At an early age, her parents divorced, and as a result, she grew up with a void in her heart. She hoped romantic relationships would fix her, but eventually they would always fail. Ivy is not the type who tells others how she feels or that she is hurting. She hides it inside. But her sister took notice and suggested she spend a week with God. During this time, she devoted herself to Bible study and prayer. She then realized she had been avoiding God, the one who could make her whole again. She went back to church determined to serve God. The pastor was inviting people to join AWR in preaching in the Philippines. She saw this as a sign from God and signed up immediately. She then prayed every day in preparation for the meetings. AWR invites all to preach. The gospel is not to be proclaimed just by the pastors, but by those who know Jesus and trust in Him. People like Sachiko. She lives in Tokyo and knows the importance of evangelism. She grew up a Buddhist, but its teachings always confused her. Then she had an opportunity to visit America, and she saw something that changed her life forever. She stayed with an Adventist family, and she observed them regularly feed the homeless. Their self-sacrifice caused Sachiko to look up at the sky and ask, "Who is this God and His love for man?" She was determined to know the God of these Adventists. When she returned to Japan, her faith was tested. She became pregnant with her second baby, but when the doctor saw abnormalities, he suggested that she reconsider her pregnancy. She prayed to God daily, and by God's grace, she delivered a healthy son. Now she always seeks a way to do the Lord's will, and when the opportunity arose to preach in Mindoro, she signed up. You have just met three ladies who had never preached before. They had never studied at the seminary, yet God called each of them to present His word. They joined many other Japanese church members who volunteered for this AWR360 event. Upon their arrival, heavy storms hit the island, and they could have easily been discouraged. Sometimes translators even failed to show up, yet they preached on.
Though I initially wanted to quit, I saw people's lives changing as they got to know Jesus. It gave me the strength to keep going.
After the storm, I decided to go door to door to talk with the people. I even preached on the radio. It felt so good to do the Lord's work.
These mission trips never leave you the same. You change along with those you preach to.
Then they made their altar calls, and the results were amazing. More than 2,000 people were baptized. These lives were changed thanks to the people who trusted in God and dared to go beyond their comfort zone. But it did not end here. These young people went back to Japan, determined to do more. They are now taking part in evangelism across Japan and seeing incredible results. For the first time in a decade, Adventist meetings were held across Japan, led by the same people who preached in Mindoro. This AWR event is just the beginning. Please continue to pray for these ongoing efforts. From broadcast to baptism, this is AWR 360.